One. Welcome back to Hoops HD, everybody. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday break. Happy New Year coming up in a couple days here. We got a special edition show here, Hoops HD Report tonight, December 29th. I'm your host, Chad Sherwood. Got Matt Zukowski and Zach Singer up top here with me, John Teitel and David Griggs down below. We might have one or two others jump in, but we want to get rolling here.
I
And,
mean, what's special about it? I'm here every week. I'm always here.
well, that would be special if you were not here, actually. That would be a very special show. That would be a good
Well, I'm
show.
still locked up.
Chad,
Uh,
do you have that buzzer sound effect handy? This could be a thing.
Absolutely. I'm getting ready. I'm hovering over it right now. But
Just thinking about it.
I just
uh,
don't see why we're calling this a special since I'm the only one that's special. I'm here every week.
okay, that's enough. There weren't very many games over the course of the past 7 days. Well, at the end of the show, we're going to take a quick look at some things that did happen on the court and take a look at. Actually, it's going to be a pretty good week and weekend coming up as we get into conference play. But we wanted to kind of step back and talk a little bit of a state of the game type of situation here. And it seems if you follow on Twitter, X, Blue Sky, and all those other social media, over the past couple of weeks, there's been a ton of posts of coaches coming out there talking about how the game has become almost untenable with the transfer portal, NIL, NCAA loses every single lawsuit, and it's just almost become ridiculous now. And I think we discussed in the offseason, I think things are getting worse. And I'm afraid we're heading into a crash into a brick wall at some point here, quite honestly. And I wanted to kind of take a step back here and discuss some of that. And I thought I'd actually start before we go to each of you here by sharing with you a post that it was a response that Jeff Kudman from the Field of 68 got today from an inquiry that he made to the NCAA about pro and semi-pro players trying to get into colleges. I'll just read this real quick. It's not that long. Schools are recruiting and seeking eligibility for more individuals with more international, semi-pro, and professional experience than ever before. And while NCAA members have updated many rules following the House injunction, more rules are likely to be updated to reflect the choices member schools are making. At the same time, NCAA eligibility rules have been invalidated by judges across the country, wreaking havoc on the system and leading to fewer opportunities for high school students, which is why the association is asking Congress to intervene in these challenges.
Um,
This is quote from the NCAA saying it's all the damn judges' fault. We need Congress to save us because we let everything go to shit. Um, I know I paraphrased that a bit, but Griggs, let me start with you. Let's throw it out there about where we are with everything and what a quote like this from the organization that's supposed to be running the sport means.
yeah, and let's leave that on the screen for a little bit
Yeah.
so the people watching can read it. One of the things I want to point out is that the NCAA has been asking, if not asking verbally, depending on Congress, to intervene for years. It was long before this trend of college basketball teams recruiting professional players. Now, before I get into my thoughts, I want to clarify something that this is, while this is a new trend, it was always within the rules. The rules were I don't know the exact year, but we'll say within between 5 and 10 years ago, the rules were that a player could get their amateur status back if they had played professionally, so long as the money that they received was deemed a necessary expense. Now, you can get very creative on what a necessary expense is. It's a very gray area. I don't know where the line is, but I know which side of the line that someone that's played in the NBA for multiple years probably falls versus someone that's played in Europe on a third or fourth division club probably falls. So I don't mind that being the rule, but if you're wondering where this came from, it was always technically legal to do this. If I mean, a player always had the opportunity to get their amateur status back, even if they played professionally, so long as they paid the money back and it was deemed a necessary expense. Have I lost anybody yet? Because sometimes
Well,
things that
well,
are clear
well,
to me, I don't explain very
well,
well.
let me throw it over to Zach. Let me actually ask you this. And one of the things that precipitated all this is Baylor signing a guy that was a first round or early second round draft pick last year, and he's now been deemed to have 4 years of eligibility. He's going to be playing for them next month. Scott Drew came out and said, "Hey, I'm not really in favor of this, but the rules allowed it. We got to do the best to win it. So that's why we're doing it."
Yeah, it feels a little bit in Scott's case like this is a guy who, he was a national championship coach in 2021.
Hmm.
He's a great coach, but like things have started to slip the last couple of years. And so is this the move now that you've got to go do this? And it's disappointing because like there are no rules, there are no guardrails. I mean, David alluded to it. It is technically a rule, but like it's not though. At first I was personally in favor of a lot of this stuff when these rulings first started, and it was the kids who had played for G League Ignite. For those who don't remember, the NBA G League to challenge college basketball to some degree for players who before NIL became a big thing for high school basketball players who wanted to make money playing basketball and not go to college to fill that 1 year gap. The NBA G League created a team called G League Ignite. It was largely run by current LIU head coach Rod Strickland. And it was a way for those players to go pro, make money playing basketball, develop against grown men in the G League professional basketball players. That was before NIL was a thing. So when the first rulings came out recently, granting eligibility to players who had been on G League Ignite, which folded as of either this year or last year, once the NBA realized once NIL was around, there was no real appeal to G League Ignite. So the NCAA started granting eligibility to anyone who had played for G League Ignite. And I was kind of okay with that. I felt that, those were college players who hadn't gone to college, who didn't really have eligibility. They weren't really doing anything in the pros. I was cool with that. But this is now gone. This is completely crazy where we're going here. And uh, the only thing I dislike more than this is the NCAA throwing up their hands saying Congress needs to get into it. I don't care what your political leanings are. Congress can't rename a post office right now.
Yeah.
There's a very slim House majority for one party right now. Like they do not have the time nor the energy to try and figure out the SCORE Act. It's not going to happen. The NCAA is once again abdicating any responsibility and just terrified to lose in court again because they got walloped once in court on a case they obviously had no chance of winning. So they've now decided they can't ever win anything in court, so they're not going to challenge anything. And they think that if they just burn the house down, eventually we'll get congressional action. And I'm here to tell them I don't know that you will. And that's why I'm worried about it, because I don't think we're just going to suddenly get Congress to step in here. I don't know what the line is. I don't know where this goes, but I don't like it. And the people doing it are saying they don't like it. Well, if Scott Drew really didn't like it, he could have just not done it. But he's a coach in a very good Big 12 who has had a rough, by his standards, couple of years and sees it slipping a little bit. And he's chosen to exploit this loophole. I find it extremely disappointing and drastically unnecessary. Recruit better, get your NIL up. That's what everyone else in the Big 12 is doing. They're not going and pulling 25-year-olds out of the G League. If Tad Boyle had done this at Colorado, I would get it. Scott Drew doing it's really disappointing.
I guess one of my things is, and you alluded to this, Zach, about Congress getting involved. That's been the NCAA's seemingly, well, we need Congress to get involved. It seems like they've been saying that for years, if not publicly to each other. Like that is their end game. That is their solution to the issues they're facing. And my question is, why would they? And I'm not saying that. I mean, not. I mean, obviously, I don't expect you to answer that. But like, why would Congress care?
I've actually heard a theory today, Griggs, that I thought was kind of interesting, is that the NCAA is almost punting all this stuff to almost force Congress's hand. They just want to lose everything at this point. And it kind of makes sense from what I've seen.
I saw that post too.
Let's get a few other opinions here. Titel, what is your thoughts on our discussion so far and where this game is going now with this, NCAA is basically saying we're inept, we can't do anything. Somebody help us.
Let's see. Well, I'll take issue with that, Chad. If you look at the second sentence, which is the one I want to focus on, the thing about the judges across the country wreaking havoc on the system, like, number one, like, if the judges are indeed doing that, then good for you for calling them out. I disagree with that, frankly. I mean, if the judge says, wait, you're doing something that is not allowed, and they're doing it because it's not allowed, then I think that that's not wreaking havoc. That's like following the law. I'll defer, of course, to the lawyers on that.
I don't have hands, but I would like to applaud John Titel right now.
Thank you. I also, in terms of the James Nadi situation at Baylor, like, it's weird because like where do you draw the line? And we're obviously talking about who draws the line, but like what if somebody like who's been out of the game, what if Robbie Hummel decides, oh, like I want to get back in college? Or like what if like Stephon Marbury? I mean, like where does it end? Like do we get former players who actually played in the NBA or who have like a decade of experience? Like I don't know where it's going to end, which is why somebody has to draw the line. I wish the NCAA could do it themselves. If they can't, I understand why they're asking for help from somebody else.
So
I think the funniest thing to me about it is that in that statement, the NCAA talking about how how uh judges are wreaking havoc on the system. Well, no, I mean they've invalidated things in the system that were fundamentally bullshit to anybody who was paying attention. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry, the grift you were running is now slightly lucrative for the players, and instead of this being 99% your direction, it's only 95%. Like, you take one thing away from them, and the NCAA has just thrown their hands up and said, we can't do anything, which is just such a poor and yet unsurprising example being set by them. And now, so something that Rob Doster pointed out when this happened, like there is no NBA draft withdrawal deadline anymore. It doesn't exist. Like it functionally is irrelevant now. Like to what John was saying, like can guys come back now? Can like can Adama Sanogo come back for UConn? He had a year left. Like this is
so
somebody's got to step in. Everybody,
so can I?
it drives me
Michael
insane.
Jordan has a year of eligibility left. Let's bring
Well,
him back to
let
college.
me address that. The rule is that you have 5 years to play 4 collegiate seasons, and your 5 year clock. Two things can start it. One is your first full time semester of college, and the second is the semester after your 21st birthday. So that's Division One. I don't know about NAIA Division Two, Three. Now, does that get challenged? Like, well, I my 5 year clock's expired, but I still had another year left, and I'd like to use it. Uh, and they take it to court. How would court rule in that? How would a judge rule in that situation? Does that violate antitrust? That particular rule? So far as I know, those have been challenged. There's ways to get a clock extended: injury, military service, religious service. COVID got everybody an extra year. So when you see people that are obviously, 5 years beyond 21, that's why. But that rule is still on the books. So if Michael Jordan wanted to come back, they'd be like, "You're out of eligibility. Your clock expired."
But again, let's say a judge doesn't throw that down because I think you're right.
You're right.
Right.
That might be another antitrust violation.
Yeah.
And Matt, let me bring you into this discussion here also, because one of the things I'm hearing is we just need collective bargaining, and I think that might be the answer at the end of the day, honestly.
Oh, I was gonna say even before you brought that up, Chad, that I think is basically my solution of if you're gonna have any kind of like realistic end game that's gonna work for all the parties involved. I think you need to have collective bargaining where you're gonna have players have contracts and that maybe you have it like European soccer style where you have like a buyout in your contract or whatever, like 2 year, $1 million contract, $300,000 buyout, something like that, to where and that or even you might buyouts or like you have like a release clause, whatever, like $500,000 release clause if another school wants you or something like that. Like you might literally have to do things like that to get like a modicum of stability in this, because otherwise, like it's falling apart. Otherwise, like you needed that. I think it'll probably come to that, but hey, like I would have thought by this point you would have had some kind of solution in place, and you're nowhere near it right now.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, one of the problems with collective bargaining, it requires both sides to come to the table and sit down. And Zach, if I'm a player, I'm players right now. Why do I even want to go sit down? Because they have basically what I would call as unlimited, uncapped free agency.
Yeah, they do.
Way better than the NBA. Way better than any professional sport.
Every single men's and women's basketball and football player should be in the portal every year. There's no reason not to be. There's just none. Because of that, I would agree with that. But the problem also with this, that in terms of, I agree with Matt. I think it's collective bargaining. But the other thing we're dealing with is you were dealing with one side where fundamentally everyone's interests are. I mean, we think, I guess maybe it isn't anymore, a 4 year clock, right, or a 5 year clock if you want to be. And like the amount of time to get that sorted, like at the end of the day, this is going to only be 4 or 5 years you're going to be in college. So it's hard to, you don't really have it's hard to get the long-term investment right from the athletes because their time is like now. They haven't, it's a greater principle, I agree, but at the end of the day, their time is finite, we think, in college basketball, unlike in the pros. Um, I don't like that the NCAA has decided, well, we're just never going to. I mean, what does it tell you that the NCAA just clearly thinks they're going to lose every court case ever now, and so they're just not going to do anything? I mean, it's all this is
That's quite a
opening up.
change from 5 years ago when they thought we'd never lose in court, and they continue to
Mm.
do things
Yeah,
that
it's like
are grossly illegal.
Yeah.
That's
that's
why
why it's
the
hard for me. It's like
NCAA
the
lost.
pivot is
What
like,
they were
just
doing was grossly
somewhere in the
illegal.
middle the truth lies, like
Yeah.
it can't be just we're never going to win again. Oh well, we're going to just cry about it and let the whole house burn down around us. Like, this isn't going to end better for you, NCAA. There's not going to, even if somehow the Congress passed the Score Act or something, the, this is doing long-term permanent damage, even if it gets that. And it's really just such an abdication of any attempt of leadership or responsibility. It's not surprising, but it is profoundly disappointing. And I just don't know. I don't know where any of this goes. And it feels like the NCAA wants to point and see it's because of the judges, it's because of NIL. It's really because of these greedy kids. They won't say that because that won't play well, and everyone knows it's bullshit. But it's just no, they went from being too stuck up to just not standing for anything, and in a matter of 3 years. It's wild.
Well, Titel, I think we still have you there, hopefully. Or did we lose you? You're there.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. We mentioned the SCORE Act. I don't know if you followed it too much, but my understanding of all of this SCORE Act, which is the act that the NCAA wants Congress to pass, it will basically keep states from intervening in NIL. It will say that the NCAA has the power to determine what NIL is and what the rules for NIL is. But I don't think that solves all of our problems, even if that happened, does it?
Certainly not. I've seen there's a lot of stuff online about pro and con for the SCORE Act. So
Yeah.
I think that if anybody definitively says they know that it's going to be good or bad for the sport or the NCAA or athletes, they're lying because there's so much unknown out there. NIL is a very complicated topic. There's so much money being thrown around. I would argue that there's always been money thrown around, and now it's just out in the open. But it's really getting out of hand. I don't know that that's right, but like it's really separates the haves and have-nots even more to the point where like I don't know if we're ever going to see like a true mid-major make a Final Four like anytime going forward, just because like you'll have to beat so many like millionaire athletic teams to get there, right?
Yes. Does it become? I know that. Is it sort of like soccer in Europe, where there's about 15 or 16 clubs, and out of the quarterfinals and semifinals, 7 of the 8 and 4 of the 4 will always come from that group of 16? Is college basketball heading to a spot to where there's, and maybe college football too, to where there's about 15 or 20 schools that by the time you get down to the Elite Eight, the 8 always come from that group of 15 or 20? I would argue that that's not what we want.
Well, so what is is there a solution, or are we going to be crashing into a wall here? And a couple of years from now, are we going to be talking about maybe there's a small group of a dozen schools, maybe 30 schools that play this semi-pro basketball and we could just forget about everybody else. I don't know where we're going.
It feels like that's where we are going to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is it's just so impossible. It feels like for Cinderella now in the concept, and I think what you're going to see is you're seeing, because I do a show around coaching. You're seeing so many of these coaches start to realize that like I can go coach D3, get paid really well, not have the pressure to win, and not have to deal with NIL, and be recruiting players to, in a lot of cases, really great schools. I'm going to go do that. I don't need to chase this BS at, I'm just going to pick one randomly, Western Carolina, where my NIL is $6. And if we get everything right and I do a really great job recruiting, I'm losing my best player to Mercer. Like it's creating an issue in the coaching profession. And you need the coaches to build the programs, and the programs are looking around in a lot of cases, and I think are starting to see like what is this? We're just building towards this even more minor league structure where I'm a fan of a team right at the top of the sport. I'm not going to pretend it's not great for us, but it sucks for a lot of others, for 90% of the sport right now. And if they can't even, we don't even have guardrails on who's eligible and who isn't. So how the hell are you going to so all of the possible loopholes now that you could maybe exploit, things like what Baylor's doing. Well, Baylor's doing it. Like I said, I would have been kind of cool with this if Tennessee Tech did it, or somebody said, "Hey, we're going to throw our whole NIL budget. We're going to do something crazy. We're going to get a G League guy, and in a one bid league, that guy's going to be the best player on the court every night we play." The other thing is now he's going to Baylor. It's the Big 12. They got enough players. I don't think Baylor's a great team. They're fine. It doesn't, I think, drastically raise their ceiling. It's just another guy. It's just another thing that if they had a bye game, they'd win by 55 instead of 50 now. It's just disappointing. We have no guardrails on anything on it. We don't even know who's eligible, Chad. If we don't know who's eligible to play in the games, I don't know how we do any of it.
Well, Griggs, I think that kind of goes right to where the question you want to ask. I'll let you ask your own question though.
Yeah, so a lot of the talk is about NIL and how that being thrown into the game through college sports and college football and basketball in particular off its access. I'm not saying that it didn't change it, but I don't think that's the biggest culprit. I think the biggest thing is the transfer, not even the transfer portal, because I was against permission to contact before the transfer portal, but just the transfer rules in general. The idea that you can transfer multiple times and not have to sit out a year. You don't have to do
the eligibility rules. I think all ties right into that too. It's the same thing, is it not?
Yeah. So when the year of residency was basically declared illegal, that's when I think the status shift, especially if you're looking at the under the radar programs, to where instead of recruiting a kid and expecting him to be there for 3 or 4 years and working toward a degree and being on a team and being in a rotation and then maybe being positioned to play professionally somewhere in the world, it went from that to come here, be here for 8 months, and then maybe you'll get another offer from another school to where you can make more money. That is where I'm at, but I'm kind of curious to get everybody's thoughts on that. I think the end of the year in residency rule is what basically wrecked college athletics even more than NIL.
Matt?
Free transferring.
I think it's like a little bit of the ability to have free transfers, kind of created the marketplace to where, hey, and that you can transfer for free, we'll offer you the money to jump up. And that, but I think so. It's if you had a rule on NIL, which unfortunately did somebody's afraid to make because it probably would get thrown out by judges or that, but basically not having a plan to begin with now is what led us to this chaotic moment. If you had a plan in place initially of okay, whatever, you could do 50,000, 100,000 NIL. If you put it in place before judges get involved, what became nothing to millions. If you'd had some kind of structure in place initially, basically if you jumped ahead of the curve instead of being way behind it, you might have been able to put in place to where now unlimited transfers would to basically be crazy free agency, crazy money.
I'll tell you what, let's get one more opinion on the whole discussion here of the mass chaos that has become the transfer portal eligibility NIL thing. We got Mike Cha joining us. Mike, any thoughts on this whole discussion? I know you haven't heard much of what we said so far, but do you have any solutions for us to how to save the game that we love and we see falling apart around us here?
Yeah, I don't really have any solutions. It's going to be hard to go back to the way it was because the players, they have a lot more power than before. They're going to say, hey, why should we go backwards? And like I said, I've said this before. It's like with the transfer portal and NIL, it just favors the big boys even more. And in basketball, you're not gonna have these Cinderella teams. I mean, remember just last year's tournament, there were no Cinderellas. It was almost 1, 2, 3, 4 seeds in the Sweet 16, and I really don't have a solution on because the players, like I said, the players have a lot more power. And why would they want to go backward? They have it good right now.
Yeah, Titel, isn't that the problem? We've let the cat out of the bag and we can't get it back in.
I've heard that from some other people. So yes, as far as NIL versus transfer rules, like I
Yeah.
think Matt hit it on the head in terms of like once you restrict the rules, like anybody can go anywhere. But I still think it's about the money because like regardless of whether or not somebody needs to sit out a year, Chad, if I'm going to give you 7 figures to come to my school, I assume you're okay waiting a year to get the money if you have to wait a year, right?
I'll wait 3 or 4 years for 7 figures. Very
There it
happily.
is.
Uh,
Yeah, I
so
do think to some degree the unfortunate thing and the thing that scares us is I don't know that there is an answer to it. Like I can't while I would like to have the year in residency for maybe a second transfer, in terms of the real world, I can't give you a reason why that's a thing that should exist. Like I think it's better for the sport, but like I don't other than I guess non-compete clauses, many of which are getting invalidated in courts. That's more of a Chad discussion than a me discussion. Like I can't give you a good moral reason why somebody should not be allowed to play college basketball for a year. But I'm also here telling you, but it does make the sport structurally better. That it makes people have to think hard on those decisions a little bit. I would like to have a year in residence, not for the first transfer, like
Yeah.
maybe after 2 transfers. Can we maybe have to set a year if you want to do it a third time? Is that really? And somebody will challenge it. Darren Heitner will be there at 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, challenge it, and he will win. But I would like to see him have to try. I would like to see the NCAA try and put something meager in that 95% of people will probably be fine with. And if 5% have got to go yell about it and take it to court, let them take it to court. But maybe they won't.
I mean, at this point, I guess maybe Griggs, the question though is maybe the NCAA is right. Maybe they have it's their own fault because they let things go this far. But if we can't get that cat back in the bag, maybe they do need some type of congressional intervention. Do an antitrust waiver like baseball. I mean, do something crazy
Yeah.
like that, and just say we're going to reset this, and these are the rules, and you guys have to live by them now because it's an act of Congress that the courts can't overturn. And I hate that. I don't think it should have to go there, but there may not be any other way back but that, unfortunately.
Well, that would certainly fix I that would certainly fix it from the point of view of the NCAA. But my response to that is, what makes you think Congress would do that? Why would they do that? And the other thing that is maddening to me about this is that I'm going to go back in history a little bit before the House case and all the way back to the Alston case. And this was when the Supreme Court ruled unanimously and spectacularly that the NCAA, this was what that first said that they were in violation of antitrust laws. And Brett Kavanaugh, in his consenting opinion, basically instructed the NCAA on what they had to do, and it mentioned collective bargaining. And I thought then at the time that they were in a position still of where they would have to sit down and negotiate with the players. And I'm assuming SAC could have been the representative body for the players. They could have come to terms on transfer rules. They could have come to terms on eligibility rules, the 5 year clock. I think that they could have even negotiated to make it 5 seasons and 6 years to include grad school. They could have put parameters up around NIL. Like that was the time to do that. And the NCAA did nothing. And they've continued to do nothing. They still haven't negotiated. And now we're to a point to where you had mentioned the players have the power. Why would they even sit down and negotiate with the NCAA? Why would they concede anything to the NCAA? But at that time, they would have. I know they would have. And they could have protected the non revenue sports, which is another big discussion that we're probably not going to get into here, and made sure that college athletics was for traditional college students, that you couldn't have someone that's in their 8th and 9th year at their 7th different school and that isn't even taking a class, that you had to be enrolled full time, that you had to be in a degree, that you had to be making progress toward that degree. They could have sat down and negotiated all that, and they didn't. And they're going to blame this on judges. And that to me is just maddening. You had a chance to get this under control and didn't. And now you're asking Congress to do it. Why would Congress do it? why I just don't see why a congressman would feel compelled to do anything for the NCAA.
I guess my issue here is that I understand. I agree with you completely. They had their chance. They blew their chance. But where we stand right
Yeah.
now, I think we're down to an act of Congress. And if the players aren't going to sit down for collective bargaining, the only other option left is let's just blow up the NCAA. Let's just blow it up.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
and and I don't know
because
where
I
we go
think
from
it's
there.
going to continue to get worse. I think eligibility is the next thing that's going to get challenged in court, and I think it will lose.
Yeah,
Uh,
they're the more you detach it from actual college, like why is there a 4-year restriction if it's
Yeah.
not about getting a
well,
degree?
did you,
Like,
you're just going to create a minor league basketball system
mm,
involving schools that are playing with jerseys that are advertisements for the school, an
Yes.
advertisement for Michigan, an advertisement for Connecticut, an advertisement for Arizona on my team.
Yes. And I could completely see the court saying, well, why should these are employees? A school can hire whoever it wants to play on their basketball team and pay them whatever they want. And if they're 30 years old and they've been playing for 9, 10, 11 years, then so be it. It's their choice. That's their right.
yeah, because as eye rolly as a lot of the old arguments were, and like hokey as they sounded, God, I respected at least the effort was being put in to make them. This is just full scale nihilism at this point. And the Congress isn't going to get in here and solve this thing. It feels like this is all building towards a future where Redbird Capital, who bankrolled Players Era, wants to be there. Why are they bankrolling Players Era? They're bankrolling Players Era so that when the NCAA's contract with Turner and CBS expires in 2032, if we even have an NCAA at that point, when the void needs to be filled for a new mega tournament of just the biggest programs, Redbird Capital's right there alongside. Now you've got private equity flowing in, something that never makes anything better. They're going to come in. That's the scary thing is the NCAA doesn't want to take leadership, and private equity is now coming in the door. I mean, we're just water is rushing into the hull at this point, and
Yeah.
the NCAA is just firing bullets into the side of it to speed it up. I don't know what the solutions are. I don't think anybody involved knows the solution. Everybody involved, and I go right down to the coaches who are making the big contracts and the players getting NIL. Get it while it's there, man. While this thing sinks, just get what you can and get the hell out. And it's unfortunate and it's sad, but that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Zach, if that's where we end up, I don't know that I'm going to be sitting here doing a Hoops HD, anything on Hoops HD because I don't
No,
know. I don't know that I'm going to be watching this game anymore.
no, I would agree with you. And my thought to those people is like, listen, the CBA and the G League, nobody watches them for a reason. Like, it's not, if you like, if I want to watch a league of just the most insanely talented, best basketball players in the world at the top end, confined into a few teams, it's available to you every night. It's called the National Basketball Association. It exists. Go watch that. Doing the NBA, but different logos. People like college basketball and college football because it's weird, because it's different. And yes, because if you're hokey, you get heartstrings because tied to the school you went to and all that. But like at the basic level, it's because of the differences. And we're losing the differences. So objectively, why should you watch a college game over an NBA game? The reasons are shrinking. And it's not just because of how great the NBA is, but because everything that makes college basketball special, we're just ripping it apart. We're just moving the games to Dubai, and we're getting NIL, and it's just we're just taking all the stuff out of it. And I don't know what the end game is for anybody other than just let me get mine. And when it breaks, it breaks. But I know everybody on this call and everybody watching, it's going to break you, and it's going to hurt for you because you're still with this. Matt's going to, as much of a festering disaster as Marquette is this year, Matt's watching every game, and Matt's going to watch every game next year and for the next 50 years if they keep playing. For the players come and go, and the fans are always still there. And that's why it's hard, because we're still here even as this thing gets worse. The players and the coaches and the administrators move on to their next high-paying gig. But we're still here, and we're seeing this thing get worse and worse and worse.
Uh,
You know what?
I'm
I'm going to
sorry.
say I'll give a quick admission, Zach. Matt actually hasn't watched every Marquette game now. One of them was because it was opposite a Bears-Packers game, and I'm also a huge Bears fan. One of those, I did not have ESPN Plus at the time the Valpo game was there, but also I didn't make the effort to get the Valpo game, and actually made the ESPN Plus the effort to get it when Connor Bedard was still healthy to watch a Blackhawks game. So like
There you
that's
go.
where, because of all of this, like my passion for kind of like granted, if Marquette was 13-0 and not 5-8, I probably would have been making more of an effort. But still, they're 5-8 and the game's going to hell. Therefore, like basically, like, and this is the danger and why also why there should be collective bargaining, because people like me, if you peel them off, like I'm one of like the diehards of the niche, like maybe
Yeah.
probably the least diehard on this panel, but still probably the 98th percentile overall of college basketball fans. Like, and if I'm gonna start being peeled off a little bit, there's your trouble of all the money. You need to have the fans involved to have the money. Like, and is like as a fan of someone else, it's kind of like a niche. It's a huge AEW wrestling fan, the number 2 wrestling promotion, but like that does a very good job of catering to its diehard audience, and therefore like fills 10,000 seat arenas, 15,000 seat arenas 10 times a year, and that it's because they cater to their audience. NCAA right now is doing the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, and part of with college basketball and college sports in general, you watch the kids come in and they grow with the program, and even with transfers, like you see the kids get better. And at the end of the day, no matter how dominant a team can get, I support a very dominant one. That roster's getting broken up just by time. They're going to have to start over and do it over with the new. And that's what gives hopes to Chad, a Rutgers fan, or Matt going through a rough year with Marquette, is that nothing lasts forever. It's great when it's going on. But if you're at the bottom, you just know, hey, we're going to get new guys in. We can change the coach if we have to, and it'll get better. But now, I don't know, you can be eligible forever. It's crazy.
I'll tell you what, I have some good news for everybody. And that is, no matter how much of a train wreck this is, I think this season at least is still chugging along. And on the court, we've had some good games, and I thought maybe it's a good transition to take a look at what actually happened over the last 7 days. Not much, and more importantly, take a look at what's going ahead this next week here. So I'm going to throw some standings up here on the screen real quickly. And Mike, since you're here, a quick shout out to your Michigan Wolverines, who are still the #1 team in the nation on the coaches poll, and had another dominating win over a pretty good McNeese State team earlier tonight.
Yeah, I just got back from tonight's game. I mean, for the longest time, they had double the points that McNeese had, and very impressive. They just come at you with depth, and they play very unselfish, and they can do it in the inside, they can do it from the outside. That's a very complete team so far.
Yeah, and more importantly, take a look at the games up ahead this week. And Griggs, let me ask you here: we are getting back into after a few more bye games coming up on Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, conference play here for real. And we got some great games coming up here.
Yeah, Michigan State at Nebraska is going to be a bonkers atmosphere. A lot of excitement around that Nebraska program this year from, a program that's typically not very good, having a very good year. That's probably the one I'm the most excited about. Nebraska also going to Ohio State. You mentioned that one. Those are the ones that kind of jump out at me the most. USC, boy, the Michigan State road trip is a bit challenging this year.
That's gonna be interesting, and we'll find out if this USC team really is as good as a 12-1 number 24 in the nation team, or maybe just maybe not that good. Also, over the Big 12. I guess I'll give a shout out here to one of the few notable results for this week. Titled Colorado, if they were anything, I don't think we expected much out of them this season. They had a gaudy record. They lost at home to Northern Colorado on Sunday, and that was a bad loss for them.
You're correct. I'm focused, of course, on the South Dakota State Arizona score, which you have up to the second. So thank you for that. Yes, not Colorado's best effort. Tad Boyle's second mention on the show. Who'd have guessed? But the rest of the conference looks good. BYU keeps killing it. AJ DeBonsa looks like the surefire #1 NBA draft pick, although it'll probably be a salary cut because he's making so much this year.
Yeah, and how about coming up here Saturday, Matt? We get into conference play here as well. Unfortunately, it's kind of a light slate here when you look at who the matchups are for the first weekend, but then it's going to start getting really good next week.
I will say that Kansas and UCF games just expand. Like UCF outside of getting destroyed by a really good Vanderbilt team, that's their only loss right now. And man, they might want some revenge after what happened against them last year.
Yeah, I'm also keeping an eye on that Oklahoma State to Texas Tech game. Texas Tech had a great win over Duke at the Garden before the break, but how many healthy players is Texas Tech going to have? And Oklahoma State's had a really, really nice start to the year against a very weak schedule. So that's going to be interesting. If Texas Tech, if they're still light on the roster side, that I expect Texas Tech to win, but Oklahoma State might give them a push.
Over a real quick look, take a quick look at the SEC. We saw everybody kind of cruise. In fact, everybody won all their bye games this week. Auburn with an early lead on Queens as we record this. But Griggs, upcoming this week here on Saturday, we get into conference play. Vanderbilt with a road test, but we got Kentucky and Alabama. We got Tennessee and Arkansas. We got some
Tennessee.
interesting games here.
Yeah, Tennessee, Arkansas in particular is really interesting. Kentucky and Alabama. Kentucky hasn't really shown out, but they are starting to look a little bit better. Having said that, they haven't looked at any point good enough to win a game like that. There's another one that I'm really excited about. LSU, a team that I wasn't that big on coming into the year, has looked really good this year. And if they win at Texas A&M, I think it completely just slingshots them. You're probably talking top 25 ranking if they can win that game.
LSU at A&M. Well,
Yeah.
I think they're close. I mean, they're close right now. They just missed the top 25. There actually was no AP poll this week with so few games. There was a new coaches poll.
And before you move on, John
Yeah.
Titel, I know what you're referencing in our chat here. It's pretty huge news impacting that game.
Go ahead.
Yes, the news came out just a few hours ago that their big man Mackenzie McBacco, aka McTaco, unfortunately is done for the year with a right foot injury. So I don't know if they were going to make the tournament anyway. I think that, as you can see with their profile, it's a little light, but this will certainly be a crushing blow to our good friend Buckyball.
Yeah, I am just now learning that for the first time. I'm really sorry to hear that. Oh man.
Yeah, it's a massive loss for them. I loved what they did in the portal, and getting him in was huge, but it's a brutal league, and this might just be a year one of getting the lumps, but Bucky McMillan will get that thing flipped real fast. Hopefully next year, hopefully they get a Baco healthy again, because you never like big men with foot injuries. It's not good.
Yeah. We'll see if he's even on the same team, even if he gets healthy.
Yeah,
But that,
we'll
that goes
see.
back to the earlier conversation, which we don't need to
I didn't look at his eligibility because I don't think it matters.
Mike, over in the ACC, again, the conference went undefeated on the week here. Not that there were very many games, and I don't think there's really much of note. But more importantly, to kind of we get to beginning here tomorrow night, Tuesday night, right into conference play, and we start off, I think, with a fascinating game tomorrow night, Louisville at Cal.
That is a great game.
Yeah, that's going to be a good matchup. You know, Cal's off to a great start, 12-1 overall. But now, as you get into conference play, we're gonna start to see how good Cal is among other teams. So, you know, the thing is, before conference play starts, you know, it's everybody's got the seemingly immaculate records. But then now, once you start conference play, you're gonna start to separate the men from the boys. So we'll see how real California is.
Yeah, and another interesting game, Titel coming up Saturday, North Carolina at SMU. Another team that we don't know too much about, this SMU team.
I'll tell you who you should know on the SMU team is their guard, BJ Edwards. Kevin Miller, aka Boopy, gets most of the pub, but BJ Edwards has been doing amazing the past month. He had a triple-double yesterday against Fullerton. He had a triple-double last month against Arkansas State with points, assists, and steals. And he was a point and a rebound away from a triple-double against A&M earlier this month when they beat them. So he's becoming not a triple-double machine, but like you better keep an eye on his stats because he's capable.
He is. Zach, Big East.
God.
Somebody up top there that I think you're a bit of a fan of. But actually, this is the one conference where I think the most notable game over the last 7 days happened. And that was Villanova's win last Tuesday night at Seton Hall, which they said two messages. Number one, maybe Seton Hall was a little overrated, and maybe we need to look at Villanova more this season as we go forward.
Yeah, I was really impressed by Villanova in that game. It was hard to get a read on Villanova going into the game because they were 10-2. I mean, their two losses were to BYU and to Michigan, which are normal losses for 99% of the sport. And Seton Hall had this great start to the year, did well in Maui, but it was a real shock. Kevin Willard's return to the Prudential Center. And what we saw is, as impressed as I've been by both teams in Seton Hall, at the end of the day, Seton Hall is still very limited offensively with what they can do. I don't judge them poorly for that at all. They are up 200 places in offensive efficiency over where they were last year. That's because they were like 320 last year, but they're up to like 120, but that's still not very good. So Seton Hall, I'm impressed with what Shaheen Holloway has done there this year, but their ceiling is limited because offensively they are just not very good. Whereas Villanova, and Caden Lewis, they have a superstar freshman who is a guy who can carry you on any night. So I'm very impressed with Villanova so far, the start they've had. That was a huge win for them to get. The league is really down this year outside of UConn. I think Villanova could absolutely finish second in the league and have a really solid first year under Kevin Willard's new tenure there. I think Villanova can get as high as second in the league overall. But yeah, that was a huge game early in the season to kind of gauge where both teams are. And I think Seton Hall will be okay, but I think Villanova's a cut above them at this point. But we do get some conference action later this week. New Year's Eve, I believe the whole league largely is playing. Oh, you got some games tomorrow. UConn at Xavier Wednesday. Xavier, when that crowd gets going, and Xavier's had a wild start to Big East play, losing by 40 at home to Creighton, and then going and winning at Georgetown, where Ed Cooley assaulted a child. That is a factual statement. It is what happened. So it's been a very interesting first season for Richard Pitino at Xavier. They really play 5 and out. Any given night, man, if they just bomb from deep, they could put UConn in trouble, but that's a game UConn should win. Otherwise, St. John's at Georgetown, it's really kind of an alarm bell game for both programs, really. St. John's trying to build some momentum when they've had the rough start to the season, but they did win their first Big East, they did win their first league game. And Georgetown, of course, this will be Ed Cooley's first game back after the suspension for the water bottle incident. Kind of an alarm game for them because things after a nice start to the season have really spiraled for Georgetown. It's year 3 for him there. There's a lot of pressure on them. They have an awesome backcourt, but they can't defend anybody really so far, it seems like. And then Saturday, Villanova at Butler, a huge game. Butler is in a critical 5-game stretch. If you look up, I know you can't look it up, Chad, or pull it up, I don't think. Butler's next 5 games are going to make or break their season, and it begins Saturday. Of course you can. This is why you're the best. So their next 5 games, they're at Creighton, home for Villanova, home for St. John's, at Xavier, at Seton Hall. If this Butler team, which has had a very impressive start to the year, if they want to have a hope of having an at-large bid, they've probably got to win at least 4 of those games, and they can't have the loss be at Xavier. I think an at-large bid is a long shot for this Butler team. The loss of Jalen Jackson for the season is a killer for them. They have no backup point guard. They did great in the portal. They built the roster right. They're just a guy short and the league sucks. So any loss you take outside of UConn or St. John's or Villanova, it's a killer. So Butler on Saturday with Villanova at home. This is a game they've got to have.
Tell us, quick, going back to that New Year's Eve game, you're going to be at this Johnny's Georgetown game, I believe, covering it, correct?
I am. I don't know which coach is less likely to have a champagne toast, though, Pitino or Cooley.
Just head on a swivel, John. Any water bottles, look out. Just
real quick look here. Mike, over in the Mountain West, there was literally no action of note over the course of the past week, but I think we're getting back into conference play coming up here. We are. Utah State's a team we've been focusing on, and they've got they got at Fresno and home against San Jose to start off conference play this week.
Yeah, that's something in the Mountain West is that even like Utah State, they're facing a seemingly inferior team in Fresno State, but it's you can't take any road game for granted. If you're Utah State, you don't want to lose a game like this. Just hold serve and win the games you're supposed to win, but. It just seems like here, Utah State's the only team that has a realistic chance for an at-large bid in this conference.
I'm keeping an eye on Boise's 2 games. They've been crazy this year with a Hawaii Pacific home loss combined with a couple of winnable wins. Hosting New Mexico at San Diego State, interesting week for them ahead.
Yeah, that's a big game for New Mexico as well, because I think I don't know if they'll get there, but they seem to be one of the teams that may be good enough to win enough games to at least make a run at the bubble. So that's a big game.
Yeah, and that one impacts someone I just mentioned. Butler took the home loss to Boise State. Butler needs Boise to have an at-large profile as bad as anybody else right now because Butler doesn't have a lot on the resume, and losing to Boise State at home doesn't look as bad. If that's a top 3 Mountain West team, it's a big ask. But I know the Bulldogs are big Bronco backers.
The American Conference, still technically on the show. Because Matt Tulsa pulled out a win over Denver somehow a week ago. Try to get their upcoming schedule. We get into conference play here. They could be hosting Rice at North Texas, and could be one of the better games of the entire American season on Sunday.
Yeah, you're 2 of your best records in the league at that, and then Tulsa probably second metrically to Memphis right now. So like that's where I don't think like Tulsa. I guess if they put a crazy hot record, who knows? Maybe
I
28 and
think
3, 27 and 4. You could, especially. I mean, I guess we'll say the resume metrics are strong enough that could be maybe if they have a gaudy record, can carry them to the day to at least a decent at-large conversation, if not bid.
I think so.
Yeah, I've been really impressed by what they've done this year. And everybody, all the attention down there always goes to Memphis, but like say they've looked great in the Veterans Classic. Maybe this is a year for Tulsa. They've been in the doldrums for so long. It's not the same as when Frank Haith was there, but they're doing well.
Yeah. Or when Danny Manning was there.
Titel, the A10 standings, I just pulled up right here now. I mean, you're starting to see St. Louis's metrics really get in there, and they're getting votes in the polls. And I mean, they only beat Principia College by 300 points this week. That was their only game, but this is another school that we got to start looking at a potential, even a potential for multiple bids if they don't win their automatic bid.
On our second week of a Principia mention, go Panthers. I just feel bad that Rutgers took so much out of Penn in that exhausting win that we had nothing left for Mason. Still came close before losing by 4.
Yeah, Mason's in there 12-1 as well. As far as this week, SLU, they will be hosting St. Joe's. Mason, they'll be at LaSalle and hosting Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, Chad, but I mean that we do live in a world where it is possible the A10 has as many bids as the Big East this year. I am that impressed. I am that impressed with George Mason and St. Louis so far, and you only need somebody else, really. I think the Big East might be a 3-bid league this year. But the job that Tony Skinn has done at George Mason this year is remarkable. And Josh Surt's kind of forgotten after a so-so year one. He's got that program rolling at St. Louis like anybody would have predicted if you had a little bit of patience, which nobody in college basketball has. See the first 30 minutes of our show tonight for more on that. But really impressed by both those teams.
Hey, Chad, real quick. Big one coming up Wednesday. GW Richmond, the two teams that I picked as my sleepers that have let me down are facing off.
Actually, Greg's last conference, we didn't hit the West Coast Conference this week. We start off conference play with Gonzaga having no problem at Pepperdine. Santa Clara, kind of one of the other teams we've been keeping an eye on here, that they picked up a road win. So
yeah, St. Mary's had a decent week. I think
they test though at Loyola.
Yeah,
they did.
And while they haven't been beating big brands by a lot of points, they've been beating good teams without big brand. I mean, the win over Northern Iowa was a good win, and then the win at St. Mary's, that was an incredible game. I think it had 4 lead changes in the last 50 seconds or something before they finally got control of it at the very end. So St. Mary's in good shape. Santa Clara has a high ceiling that they don't always play up to. I don't know if they're going to get there. I hope they do. I wouldn't say they're there now, and their margin for error is small. Another team that we kind of want to talk about a little bit, I know that they kind of had a rough week. This Seattle team is a fun team to watch.
They are fun teams to watch. Well, I'll tell you, one of the best things about them is if you watch their games, they've got this thing on the court there.
Oh, it's amazing.
The Red Hawk.
And
the inflatable Red Hawk.
We just got to...
Yeah, I mean, that is...
Oh, geez.
And, we've done extensive research on this, and it dates back to, indigenous times.
It's the Red Hawk.
They built this arena around. They built the campus around it. The best thing that we can tell is that this thing is about 40,000 years old.
Yeah, but they're actually on the road this week. They're at Gonzaga and at St. Mary's. A bit of a tough week for Seattle, actually.
Yeah.
But I guess on that note, going to pull this down here. Went through each of you for any final thoughts on anything at all going on, the stuff we discussed today, any other topic if you want to bring it up. But Matt, let me start with you.
I will say they're bringing on the current season. At least it's like we're not going to have something quite as obscene as 14 bids out of the SEC this year. But I think it will be is probably the top 4 leagues are going to have 85 to 90% of the at-large. So it won't be as dominated by 1 or 2 leagues, but it'll be 4 leagues basically dominating, I said 85 to 90% of the at-large. So that's not really fun either.
Yeah, it isn't. Titel.
As far as our scoring leaders, we've seen several legendary figures in the past. We've seen guys like Zach Edey lead the nation in scoring. We've seen Jimmer Fredette. we haven't seen too many freshmen. I believe the only two to ever lead the nation in scoring were VMI's Jason Conley in '02 and Oklahoma's Trey Young in 2018. But if you look at the current stats, we got three of the top four. Cam Boozer at Duke is leading the nation. AJ DeBonce at BYU right behind him, and Ibuka Okori in fourth place. They're all like within like percentage points of each other. So I'm not calling it right now, but I think it could happen. And if so, third freshman to ever lead the nation in scoring. There's so many amazing freshmen. Enjoy them while they can, because they ain't gonna be around too long.
Mike.
Yeah, I trying to think of something new to say. Like, I think to extend what Amanda's saying, it's like it's because of the NIL. You have it's the rich get richer, and that's why you're not going to have these schools from the non-majors get at-large bids. It's just the haves and the have-nots. But I'm excited with conference season getting underway earnestly, and it's gonna be a lot of good matchups coming up for sure.
Yeah, that's the only good news is for the next few months we're gonna have some really good basketball. We'll see what happens after this, but Zach, you're up.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch as Saturday we get into conference play. Matt alluded to the SEC is not getting 14 bids this year, but they are still the number one rated conference on KenPom, and I'm excited for conference play to start for the current projected winner of the SEC, the team that nobody talks about when you talk about who's going to be good in a strong league, the Vanderbilt Commodores. An incredible job by Mark Byington in year two there. They have the nation's second longest winning streak. They're 13-0. They get things going in SEC play on Saturday in earnest against South Carolina, one of the two SEC programs last year that had the indignity of somehow missing the NCAA tournament, which is pretty amazing given that 14 of them did. But yeah, just an amazing job, Vandy. I don't think people are really believing in the idea. I think this is the best team in the SEC. It would be amazing to see if Vanderbilt is the best team in the best league in the country this year, and it's just SEC the rest of the way. They didn't have the toughest non-conference schedule, but they won all of them. And excited for hopefully as league play ramps up, you get some more attention on the high-profile matchups. I want to see that team show up in big games and kind of get attention nationally, and have it not just be Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, getting all the attention in the SEC, but these Commodores are a serious outfit with some serious NBA talent.
They are. Griggs, you want to finish the show off?
Yeah. Getting back to kind of what we discussed earlier, over the summer, I think it was in August, we had Greg Campy as a guest during an off-season special, and one of the things I asked him was, did college basketball still feel like college basketball? Zach said something during the show tonight that made me reflect that people like it because it is weird. I don't know how you encapsulate what college basketball feels like or what it is, but there's definitely something about it that makes it feel special. And is that feeling still there? And he ultimately said that while it's different, it still for the most part is. And while I agree that it's still there for this season, I don't know if it's there as much as it was before. Having said that, yeah, the NCAA tournament ratings were really high last year. And last year in particular, you had schools that didn't have rich basketball histories or cultures selling out their arenas and like tickets going for crazy money on the second and third markets. Auburn and Alabama and all throughout the SEC, which is mainly known for its football culture. You had kids camping out overnight to get in the basketball game. So one could say the popularity of the sport is very healthy. But the thing about it is if the next thing to get attacked by the courts is the eligibility, and suddenly the game is not for traditional college students that are coming out of high school and giving that chance, but instead are for employees that are in their mid to late 20s that play multiple seasons, that don't take classes, that are just there playing on the basketball teams. While the sport will still exist and while it'll have a following and while it'll be popular in some circles in some degree, you said something else, Chad, earlier to rope you into this. I don't know if I'll be watching it anymore, and I don't know if I want to work in it anymore. I don't know that I'm not saying it's better, worse, both or neither, but if that's what it's turning into, it's just not going to suit me the way it has throughout my life.
Like I said, the good news is I think we're still good for this season. We've got some great games that have happened. We've got some great games coming up. And we'll be here all season at least. And in fact, we'll be back
Yeah.
Wednesday morning with an Under the Radar. Oh, and coming up Sunday night, how about this season premiere of our Bracket Rundown show?
Yes, Sunday night we got the bracket rundown show.
All right, so tune in, check us out on our YouTube channel, on our Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on X, on Blue Sky. We're everywhere, right?
Yep.
But on that note, on behalf of Matt Zukowski, Zach Singer, Mike Cha, John Titel, David Griggs, I'm Chad Sherwood. Thanks for joining us. We'll be talking to you again real soon.